Okay, so we're going to get right into it. Here's the deal. These are the changes that the new commissioner, the ones, replacing the old commissioner that we had when, basically Biden got in. He replaced the commissioner for Commissioner Salt, Commissioner Kishikazi, and now going to Commissioner O'Malley. Here's the deal. Here are the things that Commissioner O'Malley should be doing immediately. Some of them, they're easy, low-hanging fruit. You can just grab them. Super easy, low-hanging fruit. You could grab them, make them happen. Super easy, done. There's also things on here which are extremely difficult to do. Now, I realize, and I want to apologize, I don't have the regular studio. I don't have the regular backdrop. I don't have the regular lighting. I don't have the regular microphone. I'm sorry, my computer basically just had a bad day, and it's at the repair shop. We have another one coming from eBay, so we should be good to go. Let's get right into this, though. Please remember to like. Please remember to subscribe, and then basically we'll go from there. All right, here we go. Number one. These are the things that Commissioner Martin O'Malley should do on the first day. Allow documents to be present and visible for claimants at in-person and video telephonic hearings. All right, so here's the deal. When you go to a hearing, some of the judges, they'll ask you to take all the stuff that you have on the table and put it away, right? They don't want you to sit there with notes. They don't want you to sit there with lists. They don't want you to sit there with evidence. They want it all off the table, in your bag, away. I don't think that this is a fair rule. Not that it really is a rule, but I don't think it's a fair application of how it's written. And here's why. When a claimant goes to, basically present, they might have mental impairments where their memory is crap. They might not be able to remember things in general. They might be taking medications which create side effects, which just make them a little bit loopy. Bottom line is they should be allowed to have lists in front of them. Okay, and let me tell you why. If you look at the structuring of a hearing, right, the very beginning of the hearing, it's like they're like the opening bullet point questions. What are your top 5 impairments? When did each one begin? When did each one become severe? What is, basically, what are 2 symptoms / signs for each impairment? They're like bullet point questions. And if you get these bullet point questions done, then you've done this amazing thing for setting up the entire rest of the hearing to go really well. But if you don't get the basic bullet point questions done, here's what happens. Okay, so what are your top 5 impairments, right? And if the claimant comes in like, okay, I have cystic fibrosis, I have fibromyalgia, I have anxiety, depression, and I have degenerative disc disease. Boom! Okay, when did these begin? When did these become severe? They began around this date for this one, severe on this date. This way on this one, this severe on this date. We're just rocking through it. We're doing amazingly well. We are walking, our little feet in the snow are getting far. We're almost to the hill, right? However, if you go ahead and look at essentially somebody who answers like this, okay, so what are your top 5 most severe disabling conditions? Or the way they usually ask it is, why did you file for disability benefits when you did? Which is a really tough question to answer, but we'll just go with the breakdown of it. What are your top 5 most severe disabling conditions? Well, I have back pain sometimes, and sometimes I get tired, and then I get this pain in my hips, and I just don't feel good a lot. And I haven't been able to work because my job was just really tough. And that's how they answer. Like, what are you going to do with that? That's a bunch of symptoms. There's not much you can grab from that to then go and be like, okay, when did each begin? When did each become severe? What are 2 symptoms per each impairment? What are their medications and their side effects for those particular impairments? There's just not much to grab onto to use to go farther down the hearing. Right? You just don't have that much. So with that said, you end up in this really crappy situation. And this is what would happen. Back in the day, I used to take on claimants that came from these big box firms. And then I would take them, and then I would run some hearing questions with them, and they'd have a little bit of improvement, but they wouldn't be where they needed to be because I hadn't been working on their claim for more than 2 or 3 months before the hearing. And so what would happen is we get into the hearing, and they would give me the worst opening testimony, and they would just F up my entire line of questions. And I realized it wasn't them trying to sabotage me. They just didn't know their shit, right? They didn't know how it works, what they're supposed to say, how it goes, etc. And this is, this is why I always say this to people. You can't just run over the questions with somebody once or twice and expect them to be able to deliver solid outcomes, right, to those questions when they're being asked in a federal hearing with a federal judge present, because the brain is going to go into la la land when the federal judge comes onto the phone or is present in person, because it's scary. When you go in front of a judge, it's scary. It's not scary to me because I do it all the time, but for everybody else, it's scary. So the bottom line is allowing these claimants to have a list. What are your top 5 impairments? Oh, My top 5 impairments are boopity 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 boop. Cool, awesome. What are 2 symptoms, or what kind of symptoms do you experience as a result of those impairments? Oh, boopity 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 boop. Cool. And the reason why is that most claimants don't spend 5 minutes trying to find an answer in a medical document. That's not what happens during hearing. Most of them are just trying to figure out, oh, what are my medications and their side effects? Let me go find my medications and then I'll think about my side effects. No. No, 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 no. Allow claimants to have documentation in front of them so that they can prepare these bullet type oriented questions with solid, direct answers. Right? This is no one. You could literally have for every hearing, and they do, they have a HA 3641 through 3643, where basically it's like, okay, what are your medications, any new medical, any new jobs? But you could do it better than that. You could have it as top 5 impairments, any new medical, when did each impairment begin? When did each impairment become severe? You could do a better one than those. There's so many ways I would like reinvent the SSA, but I'm not in a commissioner position. I'm in my computer broke and I have a green background condition. So, all right, with that said, that's number 1. And that's easy. He could go ahead and just, SSA rule, claimants are now allowed to bring in documents and place them in front of them when they're going in for a hearing. Because otherwise the judges are like, I want you to take all your documents right there, all those. I want you to put them in your bag. You didn't bring a bag, put them on the floor. You didn't bring a floor, put them in your attorney. Just put them in there. Just shove them in their shirt, right? I'm just kidding. All right. Now, with that said, it was more of like a jacket idea. All right. Number 2, suspend the reconsideration stage for 2 years to get rid of the backlog. And look, hear me out. There are thousands of disability attorneys who would love to become a federal administrative law judge. They would love it. They would deep down inside crave it, right? They're like waiting for it, the opportunity. This is not the same thing for DDS reps. They can't find enough people to do that job based off of the pay that they're paying. And even then, it's not an easy job. It's a tough job. You sort of need to hire who you can get right now as opposed to who you want to afford, because it's much cheaper to hire DDS personnel and pay them, okay, here's 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 or whatever. And some of them, it's sometimes it's less, but point is, versus an administrative law judge who's like 140K. And then after like 6 years, it's like 180 something K. And I get that. But if you wanted to speed it up by erasing the massive backlog of 1 million people, it's simple. All you have to do is, finish those that are currently in reconsideration, and everybody that gets a denial at the initial filing level, send them up for the ALJ hearing level and hire more judges. All you got to do is put out a 2,000 open person request online, OPM it. Okay, Office of Personnel Management, that sucker. And then you will have a zillion attorneys applying to basically become administrative law judges. You will. I bet you a nickel, bet you a shiny nickel. Boom. You just got a huge class of individuals. Now, yes, you have to hire more people to support them, right? You're going to have to hire more individuals that are writers. You're going to have more individuals that are clerks, et cetera, et cetera. I get it. But you can get those people. You cannot get DDS reps right now. That's the problem. You can't get the DDS reps right now because people don't want to do that job. It's too much work for too little pay, and the benefits, let's call it like it is. Gov benefits just don't pay what they used to. They're just not that good. Like the people that are like on a VA check and an SSA check right now, like they live the best life anybody in America is ever going to live. There's never going to be a person living with that kind of life going forward. People in the future who are disabled that are on VA and SSA are going to be miserable because the money's just going to be so darn low. Number 3, get a 25-person AI team together to create an AI bot that will be available to answer questions on the web. So many people have questions, and the SSA phone system is never going to be adequate enough. It's just not. It's not. That's why all these major corporations have switched over to basically having a system where they have some sort of chatbot system that can switch you over to a person. Now, they would need to create categories of questions for each program and then 2,000 questions and answers per each category, and then let the AI bot answer those questions for people. Now, here's number 4 of what I want them to do with this whole AI setup. When these answers are created, they need to create 2 options, a simple answer option, and then a drop-down click answer option for a more advanced answer option. This will abdicate liability because people will have the option for clicking the simple answer. Well, that won't just pop up. where they might get a particular simple result. And they can also click the more complex issue answer, where they would likely have a higher possibility of getting the right outcome. That way, you provided to them the simple, hey, here's the bright line rule. And then you also provided to them, part two of this whole thing, which is basically, okay, cool. Now that you have the bright line rule, what is the more complex, like, if this happens, if that happens, that happens. Okay. So, remember that many people live in the world where they think the SSA should automatically provide answers to them no matter what, instantly, correctly, every single time, yada, yada, right? So just to summarize, let's say that someone with no work experience, straight out of college, gets a job with the SSA, and basically they're doing the basic training for a local field office job. And when they do that, they do the basic training, then they get on the floor, and you ask them a question, right? So you walk in, you're like, hey, I have a question about my benefits. And they're 6 months out of training, just out of college, and they're sitting there ready to answer your question about a legal field that is an ocean's worth of law. So you ask them the question, which is legal in nature, most of them are, and it has to be bounced off your file for a specific answer, right? So to be fair, unless you're asking that employee like for a specific number that they can just read off the screen, like that's an easy thing. Okay, there's the number, I see it, I'm good. Versus essentially you go into the file, you see the number, you do some analysis, and then you deliver an outcome, okay? To be fair, an AI program would almost every time be able to answer questions more accurately than the SSA employees within their first 6 months. And to be fair, like here's the thing, you cannot expect people who are non-attorneys, who are basically just working the front office gig, who are just basically with initial training just out of college, to know all of the ups, ins, downs, outs, the caveats, the this rule over here, that thing over there. They're never going to know all that stuff. It's just impossible. So when people like walk out of the field office and they're like, I'm so frustrated, I can't get an answer that's direct and specific, and I'm getting a different answer every time I ask somebody at the local field office. That's why there's no way that they're going to know it all. There's no way they're going to know half of it, a third of it, a quarter of it. They're not even going to know 1/100th of it. And they won't even know 1/1000th of it. To be fair, probably 1/100,000th of it would be far too much knowledge, far too much information for that particular individual. So just to be fair, you can't expect them, no matter what you do, to be able to deliver that kind of information. Okay, now number 5, a quarter of the recipients of Social Security benefits, like those receiving benefits right now, claimed in a poll, which I think is wrong, that they have at some point had an overpayment. I disagree with this because there are around 2 million people currently with an overpayment situation, not 17.75 million people. But keep in mind, a chunk of people have been on Social Security benefits for a while, and the amount of individuals who are accidentally paid too much could increase that 2 million to potentially, like, let's say, 5 million. But it's not 17.75 million people. It's just not. Now, with that said, here's the deal. So here's the problem with it all. If Commissioner O'Malley, does not find a quick solution to this, then Congress will use it as a reason to cast doubt on the Democrat, presented choice, which will ultimately hurt President Biden going into his second potential term, right? Because that's what the whole gig here is. He's swapping out commissioners because the SSA is doing very poorly, because he wants things to improve, and he's picking a political person in nature who's going to go ahead and, cheerleader the effects and ideas of President Biden going into the second term runoff. Now, with that said, Commissioner Kijikazi was sent the marching orders to fix the labor union crisis. While Commissioner O'Malley was, that was like her number one priority, like get in there, do this. Well, Commissioner Martin O'Malley has been sent to go and immediately fix the overpayment problem. That's the thing that he was put in for. That's like, you better go fix this right now, right? So now there's this large latitude in which, he could potentially do things because he's given a lot of breadth of movement, from the president, from, the senators, House reps, etc. Even though a lot of senators didn't show up for the vote, they said it was like one of the most, like people just didn't show up. They didn't want to be there. And that was basically the Republicans didn't want to be president because they knew he was going to get voted in. So why even be there? Okay. So what will happen? Now, if he forgives these overpayments, anyone who intends to receive or is currently receiving benefits could file a federal suit against him because they purposely forgave federal, criminals, people that stole from the SSA system, which is really only within the capacity of the President of the United States, right? The President of the United States is allowed to forgive criminals. The Commissioner of the SSA is not. However, remember that the FICA taxes you pay are technically just a tax. They're not a benefit that's stored for you in the eyes of the Supreme Court. So technically the suit wouldn't be super successful because at the end of the day, you just pay a tax, and whether or not retirement is there for you it's not yours. Like a lot of people think like, that's my retirement, that's my promise. It's not. The Supreme Court ruled on it though. It's just a tax, you pay it, maybe if it's there, you'll get it. That's the scary part of this. Like you could shore that up with the legislature and like make it an actual physical right that you paid for, but they ain't going to do that. They ain't going to do that. Now, the other side is they can claim being disenfranchised because their ability to receive trust funds is weakened as a result of those overpayment funds not being paid back. That has some potential to it as a legal argument. There are other legal options, but you can see where things can get a bit spicy for the commissioner by doing that, by just forgiving all these, potential overpayments. I would break it down into those who face administrative versus civil versus criminal proceedings. Administrative, they're just going to knock your benefits a little bit. Civil, they're just going to go ahead and go after money. Criminal, they're going to try and put you in jail. And the criminal side is really more of the, they knew better, they intentionally didn't do better, and they did this to manipulate the SSA. Civil is more of the territory of like, they could have known better, they should have known better, but they didn't, there's some like little bit of doubt there. You get into the administrative part and they're just talking benefits. That's where, maybe they were going to know, maybe they weren't going to know. Maybe not. And that's part of the big problem is they just don't have training. Like the education platform for the SSA on how these benefits work is terrible. Like how many of you went to school and had an education on what your Social Security benefits are? It's just, you didn't. I already know you didn't. So yeah. So anyway, next thing is this. There are other legal options. So we could break it into the administrative, civil versus criminal proceedings of what somebody would have against them. Obviously the criminal proceedings would be those who like super manipulated with intent. We can stop new ones by catching people sooner. We can minimize old ones by having a cutoff period, and we can forgive those where the benefit of the doubt as to the mistake could be given to the claimant, where it's like, well, all right, we'll give it to you, this time. But, those who intentionally misled the SSA or those who are repeat offenders, and I've represented a lot of repeat offenders, like a lot of SSI people that just are repeat offenders over and over and over. I've represented a lot of those. And some of them, I don't care what you do. I don't care what education you give them. They ain't never going to get it. They ain't never going to get it. Like a lot of people are like, how could you say that? How could you say some people? They ain't never going to get it. Some people are meant to go to high school. Some are not. Some people are meant to college. Some are not. Some people are meant to get a master's. Some are not. Some people are meant to go to, and get a doctorate degree or postdoctorate degree. Some people are meant to do that. Some are not. It just is what it is. Okay. Now, with that said, okay, let me just summarize what these were real quick so you have a summary of what's going on in my head. The first fix is for hearings, making it easier for claimants to present their claim and make it a more efficient claim. The second one is for speeding up the entire process by getting rid of the backlog of 1 million people. The third one is about speeding up the entire call-in process so that the call centers aren't overloaded. The fourth one is about protecting the AI system that they put in place so that they have liability removal by giving you a secondary, more advanced answer. And then the fifth one is specifically about, essentially the whole overpayment situation as to how he should start to split up how he's going to tackle this thing. Some of these things I'm sure he's working on. Some of these things he might not even know about. But I hope this helps not only him if he watches this video as the most viewed and subscribed to Disability Attorney in America, and I hope basically that it helps individuals who are also, trying to figure out where the future of the Social Security Administration is basically going, because these are the problems and these are potential fixes. Anyways, I'll catch you guys a little bit later. You have an absolutely wonderful day. Attorney Walter Hnot. Please remember to like. Please remember to subscribe. Click that all button. We do have memberships available to support the channel. They help me get basically duplicate gear. That's why we have this crappy green screen, because we're not on set because I don't have the duplicate gear and the computer broke. So with that said, if you want to leave a review, absolutely love those. Disability Resolution Florida or Disability Resolution Law Firm. I will catch you a little bit later. You have a wonderful, wonderful day, and we will go from there. One more video, and then basically we might do videos tonight too, because I have an overload of videos that I wrote over the holiday. I went on a mini vacation where the only work I did was administrative paperwork, administrative computer input system work, and rebuilding a deck. So to be fair, it was a light weekend. So I'll catch you guys in about 5 to 6 minutes at the next video, and we'll go from there. Thanks so much, and see you soon. All right, bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.